Ian, nice to meet you. How is your day going today so far?
It's going good. Yeah, nice to meet you too. Thanks so much for reaching out and inviting me on your show.
Of course. Yeah, super excited to talk to you about, as I mentioned in the email, you're from Soundfly, and we've collaborated with me having a chance to watch Elijah Fox's amazing course. And so we're going to get into that a little bit. I definitely want to know about the history of Soundfly. But before we get into all of that, I want to ask you a question that I ask all of my guests, and I want to learn a little bit more about you. So I want to know what little Ian was like. What were you like growing up?
Musically or any which way.
Yeah, however you please to answer the question, but definitely musically, if that was part of your upbringing.
Yeah, 100%. I was one of those kids who loved kind of. I wouldn't say I was antisocial. I loved people, but I also liked to put my head down and work, right? And that was from Legos, I was the one kind of building the castles that then everyone would play with. And I just enjoyed having other people around me, but sitting there putting the pieces together and kind of creating the worlds. I really think that's the same for piano. I mean, I'd get home from school and just play piano for an hour or two and just be in my little world. And I love it again if people are around. I love having people around, but I just kind of very much close off and in a certain way and focus in on my thing. I think that's I remember in high school one time my older brother, who's very social and gregarious, was like, "Oh, my little brother, he's so quiet and shy." And I kind of was like, "What? No, that's not me. I'm not. Am I? And it's just because I never thought of myself that way. I just like to focus. And I think that's kind of stuck with me. That is still who I am. I like to tinker and get into something and world build and focus on stuff. And hopefully other people are kind of part of that as well. But,
Absolutely. Yeah. Wait, so you did you take lessons growing up?
Yeah, I took piano lessons. My parents started me, I don't know, in kind of 6 or 7 or something like that,
Yeah.
And I kind of didn't really like it honestly until about high school. I hated kind of practicing classical piano stuff. And it wasn't until really I was going to quit, and my mom kept being like, "No, don't quit, you'll regret it," And finally, I was like, "This is a waste of your money and a waste of my time. I'm going to quit." And she's like, "Just go to the jazz teacher down the street." You know what I mean? Try one lesson with him, and if you like it, stick with it. And if you don't, then I'll shut up and you can stop. And I did one lesson. It was one of those lessons where he's like, I'm going to teach you 400 chords today or something, and I'm like, "Wait, what?" And he's like, "Okay, here you go. C major 7, C7, C6, C minor major 7, C minor 7, C minor 6, C diminished major." And I was just like, "Wow," and all the things just going processing. And then he's like, "Cool, now just play those chords and improvise over the top because, you have a great sense of melody." And I was like, "Oh shit.
Wow.
This is what music's about. This is what playing music's about." And that's when I really started playing and loving it.
That's incredible. Yeah. Do you like playing classical now as an adult?
Yeah, I do. Funnily enough. Yeah. But it really has to, for me, music really is all about making music for me personally is all about freedom and that sense of freedom. Every day I do something with an instrument or with the computer, with the DAW, that is free form. That's what's exciting to me, having kind of this blank slate and kind of, putting pieces together and not knowing what you're going to do. And so these days I also love going back and playing classical. But I do it in my own way,
Sure.
I love the first time I learned Clair de Lune or whatever it is. And I could play this flowy, beautiful, so musical. And it felt like, even though I was reading the notes on the page, it felt like I was engaging in that act of freedom because I was able to interpret it. I was able to play it, and I was able to kind of take it and make and of course, when I was learning as a kid, I was just never encouraged to do it that way. I was kind of given to read exactly what's on the page, in the exact way, with the exact markings and the, everything.
No deviant. No. Is that the word, deviant? No.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
Yeah, that's where. Yeah. Like it's this way specifically with class.
Deviating. No deviating.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking for. Yeah.
Deviant might be more like the darker side of that, but I like that too. Hey, I'll be a deviant musician.
There you go.
Yeah. Own it.
That's incredible. Yeah, there's so much to unpack. I took lessons only for 1 year growing up in 6th grade. I took piano lessons because prior to that, I was able to play by ear, hear a melody, and kind of replicate it and stuff. And so my parents and myself wanted to kind of develop that and learn how to read music and stuff. And so I took lessons only for 1 year. And had intentions to continue, asked if we can take the summer off, and then never continued into the fall when the school year started back up. And that stuck with me for decades, for a long time. I always had that in me, like I wanted to get back to it, but never did until I turned 30. And that's when I, just really dove back in. And now I'm in a space where, like you just described, just so much joy, right? To be able to sit, like specifically, I have this Nord Piano 5 over here, which you know about. You've heard of Nord, of course. You know about it. Have you ever had a chance to?
That's what I got right here.
Is that? Sweet, dude. Okay, this is which one? Is this the stage?
This is the Electro 5D.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Bro, they're very expensive pieces of equipment, but now that I have my hands on one and I'm playing it, I'm just like, okay, I get it. I get what the deal is, why people love using them so much. But so let me actually dive in for a second, just a little bit now about Soundfly, because as I mentioned to start this conversation, I had a chance to use it. And one of the things that's like fascinating to me, there's several companies that have like masterclass and I think Music Play or Musician, one of these types of, I forget the name of them, but there's a lot of these companies that have classes from people who are experts, and I get notifications and pop-ups and stuff like that, sponsored ads. I was drawn to yours specifically because it appeared from the outside looking in, and now I can confirm it, that not only was it the videos, but the lessons that accompanied them were extraordinarily robust, and they tied directly in, right, to what Elijah was talking about. And that's what really resonated with me as something that could, make it more than just a video of someone explaining things to me. And it's like kind of transformed things for me, like still taking lessons now, still learning in different ways, but also having, a music producer and pianist, like in one, which is how I look at Elijah, and like learning from him because I love his stuff so much. It was just like just an amazing experience. So I want to kind of talk a little bit about like what gave you the idea to start this company. Like, how did that all happen? Like, walk us through that.
Yeah, I mean, I love that I'm so glad you had a good experience with the course. And yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right in terms of what we've tried to do to kind of differentiate ourselves to some degrees. I think I've enjoyed a lot of masterclass courses, with those experts. I mean, the Art of Negotiation one was like really fun and interesting. I didn't know much about.
Check that out. Okay.
But I also was really frustrated by a lot of them because I did find them quite surface level. I mean, like Herbie Hancock is teaching a course on masterclass. I'm like, oh my God, like this is amazing. I want to dive in. And then like there are parts of it where he's just like teaching you like basic scales or something like that. And I'm just like, wait a second, that's not what I want to learn from Herbie Hancock. I can learn that from anyone. Like, can't we focus on like Herbie stuff? And it's just kind of almost too broad, a little too like general, and there weren't those kind of like, I don't know, like hardcore lessons. So one of the things we tried to do with some of our courses is like focus with the artist on only the thing that the artist can teach, the thing that only they know. Right? And like with Elijah Fox, it's this fluid, beautiful, impressionistic piano playing that is mixed with like hip hop and beat making and stuff. And that's like the thing that he does that we don't know. We could never teach that. So all the shooting and all the videos were focused on that. And then, but because of that, there's some gaps, right? Like there's some things that he didn't talk about. So then we flesh those out. We just like, sure, anyone can teach the major scale. So we'll just add that in. We'll just flesh that stuff. So we're not wasting his time and we're not wasting kind of your time. It's kind of each to his own thing. And then we can try and make it really rigorous as well. Yeah. If there's something he doesn't get to, we can add it in. If there's something he says that is kind of just the start of an idea that could be really big, we'll try and expound on that and bring it out. So I'm glad you kind of noticed that. For sure. I think to kind of go back to your question, to me, I really started this from like an education first kind of view of things, like really wanted to create a fantastic educational product. So we tried a whole bunch of different things. I mean, we started with like a little app that you were meant to be able to like play piano, and it would like recognize your notes and tell you if you were doing it right or wrong. And now there are a couple of different apps that do that. Musician actually was one of them who did that well. I think like Simply Piano, Joy Tunes, some others. That was cool, but it was really tricky. There were other people doing it better than us, so we kind of pivoted. Then we kind of experimented with some stuff and ended up for a long time doing this kind of one-on-one model where our idea was basically like, well, the best learning happens in like one-on-one mentorships and one-on-one like teaching and tutoring and mentorships. So we're like, what if we can guarantee a good experience? So we created kind of a structure around that. We found all these like amazing musicians to do it, and we kind of created a place on the website where people would come and tell us what they wanted to learn, and we would say, okay, cool, here's a mentor who's a professional musician who can do basically like a month-long session with you to get you where you wanted to go. And that was awesome. That was really cool. Really, really effective, but really hard to scale as a business. Really tough as a business is, you're selling things to people online and they're like, how do I trust this? How do I know it's not snake oil? And so kind of, that was kind of at the heart and core of what we were doing when we started, is just trying to make a better educational product. And then at some point people were like, hey, can you guys are creating great content as well to kind of sell these mentorship sessions. Can we buy the content? And I was a little bit hesitant to do that for a while because I think video courses have certain limitations educationally that frustrate me. But eventually, people were asking for it. So we started making these video-based courses, and we created a subscription around that. So it's been in this process of really trying to do something we thought was interesting, getting some feedback from the market, trying to do something else we thought was interesting, seeing what worked here or there. And every time we did something, try and do it the most educationally rigorous way we could do it, So that's kind of a bit of the story of Soundfly.
That's awesome. So would you say, like right now, the one-on-one stuff that you just described, is that still a part of what you offer?
We've just recently stopped doing it, unfortunately. Because it's still something I love, and it was so effective. And we got still if you go to like Trustpilot or something like that and see like public reviews of Soundfly, a lot of those come from people who did those one-on-one sessions because they just, and I did like 10 of them myself as a student, because they're just in terms of like learning and like the science of learning and like how people learn effectively, having kind of intensive sessions with accountability, with feedback, with social momentum, with someone who can break big things down into small steps for you. All of those things are just super, super effective. So, for anyone kind of listening or thinking about this, like I'm a big fan of self-learning, and I would never tell you like don't use Soundfly courses. We love our courses as well; they're great. So you can be self-driven learner, but to like take it to the next level, you need some of those pieces. You need some of those like something that takes big ideas and breaks them down into small, achievable steps. That's kind of, one thing that's really good. Someone who's providing feedback for you on what to focus on, okay, you're doing great, but, we don't really understand how to use compression. So we're going to focus on like a week or two, and we're just going to practice different ways of using compression to help you master that skill set, that kind of thing. Yeah. And then getting that feedback, and then I don't know about you, but for me personally, like just the accountability piece, find some way to create some accountability for yourself. Yeah. And having a teacher is a really, really good way to do that. But there are other ways to do that as well. I mean, you can get friends, you can do like little competitive things. You can do 30-day challenges with a community. You can, you can find ways to do that. But that accountability piece feels so important to me, to helping you actually, because we all of us have like, eyes bigger than our stomachs. We want to do these big things. We want to take on, big projects, right? Like, I'm sure that is not just me. And having something that allows you to have some accountability around those is just so important to getting it done.
Bro, I think that sentiment there, about being ambitious and having things that you wanna do, that you wanna create. That's kind of where I'm at right now, right? It's that there's many different sort of areas. I'm very much heavily focused in the education space, as you are with my tutoring business, where we do math, English language arts, and piano. I was able to inject my passion of this, of music. And that's going really well. That's one area that I spend a lot of time on. And then there's this platform that I'm being more meaningful with I guess acknowledging how much I enjoy these conversations, how much my guests generally enjoy the conversations. I won't even say generally. I think all 100% of my guests, I think, enjoy them. If anyone didn't and you watch this, like, let me know, and we'll have a conversation. But
jury's still out. Jury's still
exactly.
out.
I can't say for sure. It seemed as though, and certainly, people who watch the episodes as well, hopefully, glean some insight and stuff. And for me, there's that stuff. There's music technology. I'm really into OP1 and having these potential brand partnerships like the Nord piano that I just mentioned to you earlier. Like that I acquired that through a partnership with a company who they sell called Zounds. They sell all this music, audio, music equipment. And they love my channel, and they have this program where they can lend indefinitely anything you want to try out. And I'm like, are you serious? Like, where's the catch kind of thing? And it turns out that there is no catch, right? I have stuff that I can use and generate ideas and content for my channel, which is amazing. But now what happens right now, I'm in a space where there's so many different things that I'm doing, and I'm realizing the importance of just focusing in a little bit, like saying some of these, like there was something I watched the other day. This guy, Harris Heller, is a YouTuber, and I watch his content every so often. And he had a video that was like top 5 tips for being a YouTuber or content creator in 2023. And he prefaced the video saying, like, I've done these videos in the past, but there's a lot of things that have changed, and there were a lot of like new questions that he hadn't seen before that people have been asking him. And the last thing that he said resonated with me greatly. And it was something along the lines of, make sure, like basically, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're a creativepreneur, a lot of or most of what you do like are things that you enjoy. You're hopefully like, a business is around something that you're into, like what you just described, like what I described. And, sometimes you sort of inject like things that you're into like your overall brand. And what happens is like you may not have a hobby anymore because your hobbies all kind of become part of what you're doing, or at least that's kind of what I'm experiencing. And he was basically saying sometimes like when all the things that you do are things that you're doing for your business and they're money related, then they can, and oftentimes some elements of them at least can become less fun because it's now business. So like for me, what resonated with me a little bit is like being thoughtful about everything that I'm into doesn't have to be something that's content driven or whatever the case is, right? There could be some things that I just do for fun and there's no pressure, there's nothing like that that's associated with it. So I don't know which of the things that I do I want to move into that category. But certainly musically, from a creative standpoint, like making an album, making music, all this, that stuff is like, it's fun for me. The part that's not fun is, oh, this is sounding cool. Like I need to, or I'm inclined to share this with the world. Maybe not, right? Maybe it's just for you to kind of just enjoy that. And the other stuff, the tutoring, the stuff that there's a bigger demand for and stuff like that, kind of double down, a little bit on that. So that was something that, just really resonated with me hearing that yesterday.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I mean, I was almost like reminded of this kind of framework I used to use a little bit around my time, where like, I divide my time up into like projects, practice, and play. And basically like the idea being like, projects are moving something forward, some goal of mine, some ambition, and that might be money related, that might be, I don't know, like notoriety related or whatever speaks to you. Whatever your big ambitions are, you've got your projects. And those tend to be, kind of big things you take on. It could be an album. It could be a, as you said, like a YouTube channel or whatever it is, and tied to your career possibly, etc. Not always. I mean, you might have a project for a hobby, but projects are kind of big things. And often I found that in my life, projects balloon and they end up taking up all your time. And what you need to do, in my experience, what I want to do to kind of balance my life is then also find personal time for practice and play. And so and I differentiate those because they're kind of different approaches. So practice is the stuff you do to further a skill. And it can be really easy to forget when you're working on projects because you're so wrapped up in your project and you're so wrapped up in productivity and making something better. And, like I got to ship, I got to execute, I got to be efficient, and you've got your focus mode of thinking on that you kind of forget that, well, actually, like, no, like, let's take some time to actually further my skills. Let's I want to actually be a more fluid pianist. I want to understand harmony better. I want to be a better producer and understand technology better. Like you're going to learn those things better if you dedicate specific practice time to those things. And because when you're doing them in the course of a project, you're not going to approach it in the way that's most effective to actually learning. Usually, learning requires repetition. It requires variation. It requires, these sorts of things that you probably don't do when you're doing it for a project. And then, of course, you've got play. And play is the essential ingredient to like having fun with it and finding creativity. And that's when you let that kind of daydreaming side of your brain speak to you, right? And oftentimes, if you're in focus mode, if you're in project mode, that can end up kind of being a little bit detrimental to your creativity over the long run. And you need to engage that play side of yourself to then, you almost think of it like, I guess like a card house or something, like you're building maybe a Lego house would even be better, because I'm thinking about like my kids are always using Legos at the moment.
Nice.
So you like when you're building a project, you're putting your Lego bricks on, but then they're fixed in place, right? They're not moving. You've built something or you're building something, and the whole thing is rigid. And that's useful for productivity. It's useful to have things in their place, stuck together, rigid, or whatever it is. With play, you come in and you knock it all down so that you can start again, or you move the pieces around. It's maybe a little bit more like playing with magnetiles if you have kids and you know what these things are, where it's a little bit looser. They're not stuck together as much. You're freeing things to make new connections. You're introducing outside toys to your Lego set so that it can it can interact in different ways. And so you need that playtime as well. And once again, that might be unstructured. That might be purposeless. It might lead to a project, but so I like to think of those kind of as three different kind of ways of spending my time, and then structure goals accordingly. So this week I've got a couple big project goals. I've also got a practice goal, and I want to spend at least 30 minutes a day doing unstructured play or whatever.
Love that. Okay. Yeah. As an entrepreneur, right? It's super important to be aware of these different sides, and I haven't been as aware until lately. But there would be times, right, where multiple days will go by, and I'm just going to a cafe or going to my office, and I'm just like getting things done. I'm like, I need to get these things done, and then I feel good in a way, in a small way, like, oh, I accomplished this stuff. But I feel like terrible in a bigger way that I haven't had that creative outlet. I haven't like had fun or played some, just explored musically or just do something that's like a little bit more mindless and just kind of exploring. And I think I've realized that it's because of the fact that too much time has gone by, right, where I haven't done these things that are intrinsically important to me. And what you just described is exactly, I love how you structured that too. You said 30 minutes a day of play, which to me, we're talking musically, so that I assume that means you're going to be on the keyboard and or your DAW, just like doing just having fun, exploring.
Totally. Yeah. To give a concrete example. Yeah. So I do a little bit of play on the piano every day. That's just like baseline for me. That's like my connection with music. That's my connection with beauty, with reflection. That's my meditation, right? Like, so just like the baseline for me is sometime on the piano every day, just like play with no structure, generally speaking. It's usually pretty free form. I mean, I might kind of dip into a song or something, but it's mostly just free form. But occasionally I'll expand that. So recently, I've got a little side project. It's this band called Sontag Shogun. It's a trio. It's with two of my best friends of all time. Nice. We've always just done it on the side, but it's super fun. And it's taken us some really cool places. We've toured, Europe a couple times with it. We've toured Japan, China.
Wow, that's awesome.
All over the U.S. and Canada.
And you're downplaying it, but this sounds like a big deal. I mean, it sounds like a huge deal in terms of what you've done, but also obviously the funness. But you're downplaying it a little bit.
Exactly.
Like, but why?
That's a good question. Yeah, because we've never really given it the focus. It's never, it's always kind of on a certain priority list of all three of us. We've often kind of had it lower down on that list, and so a year will go by where we just don't do anything. We don't release any music. We don't play any shows. We don't do and so I think that's why I kind of caveat that a little bit. But it really is a source of fun, and occasionally there are really exciting projects. And I love we released an album last year, I think, 2022 in March or something, with a Finnish singer named Lau Now. And it was such a rewarding project. It went out on a label called Beacon Sound. It was printed to vinyl. Great response. We got to play some really fun shows with it. And that's a great, really rewarding moment. But it's really dip into that for a minute, and then I'm out and I'm not doing that, Wow. So that's why I'm kind of downplaying it a little bit. It's not to downplay its importance in my life or downplay how much fun and joy it brings me. It's just time-wise, it always gets the short thrift. But yeah, I mean, so something I did last month was we used to play a cover of Tom York's Dawn Chorus live, and it was just a really fun, it's like a moody atmospheric track, and we would kind of build it up with all sorts of weird sounds and textures and atmospherics, and it got a really great reaction. It was really fun, so we just recorded it, and we're gonna probably gonna release it later this year as just a single. And but I really wanted that play element incorporated somehow, so I gave myself basically 6 hours of unstructured time. Really, really hard to do with kids. Really, I mean, it was kind of it was actually, it started as 30 minutes of unstructured time, but as it was enjoyable, I kept going. So, I do my 30 minutes of play every day on the piano, but this was okay, I'm going to just play with this piece a little bit and try and remix it. I'm still learning production. I'm not that good, but I just want to play with this and see if I can I'm hearing something in my head and I just want to see where it goes for 30 minutes. And then 30 minutes turned into an hour, and then an hour turned into a couple hours, and then over a course of a couple of days. And then because I liked where it was going, it turned into a project, and I created this remix that I'm really happy with. It's going to release with the single. And that was like a great example for me of like how play can help, because like I went into it with no expectations. I didn't have really the project in mind fully, or some like project goal. There was no ambition there necessarily. I just wanted to play with it and see where it went, you know? Yeah. So I love finding like moments and possibilities for that play.
That's incredible. I'm like hearing some stuff, a lot of stuff that I think I need to hear and need to probably right after this. Actually, I've been meaning to just grab paper, pencil, no iPad, no technology, and just kind of write some stuff down, because I'm at this really interesting point right now in my life, right? I have a 16-month-old daughter.
Congratulations.
Thank you, bro. The best thing in the world. I'm just over, you know the deal, being a dad. It's just, I can't.
Overwhelming in every way.
Yes.
In the good ways and in the difficult ways.
That's
the
exactly,
ways.
that is, oh man. It's just a blessing more than anything else to have a chance to experience what I expected I was going to love so much, and now it's like beyond what I would have even expected, right, prior to being a dad. So thinking about like my background and thinking about this 3-year journey now of being a content creator, but who was Khordmaster before Khordmaster? I was Kevin Allen. I was a engineer major with 2 master's degrees, with 12 years working in corporate in various capacities, from marketing to, you know, project management to engineering, etc. And then I went to become a middle school math teacher, and then started my business, and then started this content thing. So there's been this thing with me where like every 3 years it was kind of time to pivot from back in my days at Verizon, culminating in year 12 where I needed to make a stronger impact. That's why I left that, took a 1/3, you know, percent, or 66% pay cut, right, to become a middle school math teacher. But knowing that that's what I wanted to do, left voluntarily, didn't have a job lined up, but just knew that it's this, right? And I was able to, you know, get my alternate route certification and stuff like that. But now thinking about what comes next for me is like, okay, there's so much experience and diverse experience that I've had. These are like 3 pretty distinct things, right? Content creator, teacher, and corporate person. Yep. And so now I'm like, okay, what's next for me is still doing content in some capacity, like definitely still doing this particular platform is like super important for reasons like this, being able to connect. But now it's like, okay, I need to find a way to bring this experience to a company, maybe one that I've worked with in the past as a content creator, but bring this to a company that I believe in, and one that I know I can make an impact, and something that I'm like truly interested in, right? Musically, maybe creatively, something like that. This comes from like a meeting I had not too long ago, like less than a year ago, with someone from a company that I work very closely with, but having a chance to meet him in person and a few others, going out to dinner in the city. And this person only knew me as Khordmaster, but having a chance to meet and talk and share some of these other backgrounds, other experiences that I had, I just saw something in him like kind of light up, like, whoa, like there. And I don't know if this will end up happening. Maybe it will, maybe it won't. We'll kind of see as time goes on. But the idea of like, wow, I had no idea that this person, as I know as a content creator who's consistent and does good work in that space, has all these other things that he brings to the table. And for me, that stuck. It was just like, I shouldn't throw those things away. Like that's still a part of me, and that's an area that I enjoyed. I enjoyed connecting back then and working and all that kind of stuff. So I'm excited about what comes next, you know, and I'm very much in this exploratory phase. And so just thought I would share that, because it's like a inflection point kind of thing, you know. Yeah. That's where is that kind of a new feeling where you're at right now, or is that something that's been kind of ongoing for a little while? Yeah, so maybe about 6 months or so. 3 to 6 months. Relatively new, I guess we could say.
Yeah. Because you said every 3 years you get the urge to kind of slightly.
Yep.
And I feel that I mean, I think it's a really healthy kind of impulse, and that, like, you know, to kind of force yourself to kind of reflect as well, and align your, you know, your wants with your strengths and your gifts, and your balance that with, you know, what you are here to give to the world with what you want to kind of take and need, and all of that stuff, and finding moments for those reflections. But I love that. I mean, obviously, you're the totality of your kind of person is wrapped up in all the different things that you've done. I think musicians, by the way, often forget that, right? Like, you know, we often kind of, when you're younger, there's almost like this competitiveness to spend the most time possible in the practice room, and you kind of forget that actually, like, the inspiration, the creativity, and the story that you need to, like, tell to make good music is outside the practice room. That's out in the world, you know. And all of that, I mean, it's part of the process of kind of meaning making in your own life, and then part of the process of kind of creating you, so that you can, you know, then kind of give your gift to the world, or gifts.
Right. Possibly plural. Yeah, that makes total sense. Let me ask you a question about your musicality a little bit, and like what so you mentioned the Nord electro, I think you said, right?
Yeah. So
you have that. What DAW do you use, first off?
Mostly Ableton Live these days.
All right, so this is perfect, because so you have them connected. I'm sure you have that like permanently like connected to Ableton. So like if you're sitting in front of it, sometimes you're gonna like just not have Ableton on and you're just exploring possibly. But then sometimes when you're producing, you're using Ableton and you're recording stuff that you're playing, et cetera, et cetera. So like with Ableton, do you use your like a keyboard and mouse mostly, or do you have like some other control surface to like hit record and stop and stuff like that?
Yeah, I I mostly use my keyboard and mouse, honestly. But I'm not the most efficient producer ever, for sure. I have not spent the time to like learn the keyboard shortcuts and stuff like that. You know, it's honestly because my Ableton time ends up being so short, just with 3 kids and the business and piano playing that's always there and always easy, that I haven't necessarily put in the time to kind of like, you know, invest in my fluidity on Ableton as like almost as like an instrumentalist, you know. If you imagine the DAW as your instrument, I haven't advanced that skill set as much as I would like to at some point. But I actually don't have any problem. It's so easy, honestly. I like, you know, I'll play ideas in on the piano, on the keyboard, as you said. It's MIDI, you know, connected via MIDI. Occasionally, I also actually put it through my interface, and what I'll do is I'll run like my 1/4-inch cables from the keyboard into I've got this like Strymon Big Sky reverb pedal that I love the sound of. It's like almost a shoegazy guitar tone. Oh, nice. But it's kind of sounds cool when I put my keyboard through it. So occasionally I'll do that and record that way as well. But most of the time I'm just, you know, using my piano, and I'll use that to write string parts, because I like orchestrating stuff and writing kind of, you know, orchestral stuff. I'll use it to play piano stuff. I'll use it to do synth stuff. And then I go into the DAW and I just click around with my mouse, you know, drag, paint, input, notes, you know, beat making. I'm mostly inputting notes with a click of the mouse, just dragging things around. Yeah. I'm really inspired, right now, just by like sound design in particular. Okay. You know, so I find myself really drawn to that part of the experience, right? So like honing in on like the specific sounds in a track. You know, how do you make a synth sound that's like really evocative and interesting? Or how do you make a beat with drum sounds and percussive sounds that are slightly off kilter and maybe have something new and different to offer, rather than just like pulling in a splice pack or pulling in a preset or something like that.
Yeah.
I really, really like trying to kind of like shape and mold specific sounds to then and then find inspiration in that I can use to kind of write with.
Is that a relatively new thing for you?
Yeah.
Like previously?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
you would
really
just
new.
go through presets and kind of find something that sounds interesting. Now you're like, hey, let me go into Operator or one of these instruments on Ableton and let me just spend some time. That's cool. That's cool.
Yeah,
Making
and
your own sound.
actually, a big part of that was inspired by this artist named Ryan Lott. And Ryan Lott is band leader of a band called Sunlux. They were kind of they did the score for Everything Everywhere All at Once last year, and were nominated for an Oscar.
Yeah, very cool.
And he's a very, very, very impressive musician. He's done some really cool stuff. We made a course with him, and he's just the loveliest guy. He's just the nicest guy, and he'll like talk with you for hours, like too much. So, like you're like, wait, Ryan, didn't you say you had to be somewhere like 20 minutes ago?
Like,
and he's still like talking about some plugin that he's like obsessed with right now. Passionate guy, exactly.
Yeah.
And a big part of how he makes music is by thinking about sound first. And so that's when we ended up focusing on in our course. And he would he takes sounds that he records and finds out in the world. They could be sounds from an instrument like a piano, or they could be found sounds from the world around, and records them in interesting ways. So with us, he took a piano and he prepared it a little bit. So he put some like items on the strings, and then he recorded that, and then he'll map that to the keyboard through Contact, actually, which is a kind of a Contact is a native instruments plugin that allows you to take a sample. It's a sampler, and it allows you to take a sample and map it to the keyboard. And then he'll compose with that sound. And if you play it lower on the keyboard, it might slow the whole sample down and bring out all these interesting different kind of tonalities that you didn't hear. If you put it high on the keyboard, it might speed it up, or you can force it to not speed up, and then that creates like glitchiness, and so there are all these really cool, inspiring things when you're working with samples, and that just totally sparked something in me. I mean, that idea has just stuck with me, and almost all the producing and composing I've done since then, I just find myself spending so much time on the sounds, and when I get sounds that inspire me and that I like, it kind of like everything like clicks really easily from there. The actual like notes and chords and harmonies and stuff feel easy. So yeah, I've been loving that. Yeah,
I'm sensing a lot of like interesting similarities between the two of us, specifically with our entrepreneur, like with this platform and with Soundfly. Because what I'm hearing is like naturally you're a big fan of your business, of what you're offering. You're a fan of learning, of educating, of
100%.
All this stuff, and so like you have a chance to like to listen to and watch your own episodes, your own you know what I'm saying, videos, and learn from it and inject that into your musicality. And that is very similar to, it wasn't this way when I first started, but like this platform, there's been many a person, including yourself, who have a lot of information that maybe there's a masterclass in its own, like of the stuff that you shared. Like, for example, the three, I'll have to go back and say exactly what it was, but your
project,
three distinct,
practice, and play.
I thought it was the 3 Ps. Yeah. Project, practice, and play. That's a really interesting thing in itself, right? So like some of these sometimes feel like little mini interactive master classes in itself that maybe some people like. There certainly have been people I've had on that charge whatever per hour for like a one-on-one consultation or whatever it is, and I have a chance to get that information for free.
Totally, yeah.
It's kinda,
it's a good hack. Cool. Just start a podcast and you can like learn anything.
It's really. Yeah. It's really really interesting, and I think Yeah, that's really cool about the sound stuff that you just described too. Like basically getting inspiration from different places. One of the things I struggle mightily with right now, like if you look over here, right, you got this like Waldorf Iridium keyboard, this like super.
Cool.
I mentioned the Zounds thing before, right? So like this
Yeah.
is another thing that I want to get my hands on, and a lot of like super accomplished like composers and stuff use things like this to generate just these. I mean, really amazing textures, and it has polyphonic aftertouch. So, you press the key and then you press it in deeper and it like changes the sound while you're playing. So it's like really, really cool. But
Wow.
I struggle with like, and that's why I was so excited about Ableton, right? So Ableton, I have Ableton 11. It's the first DAW that I used way back when, but I kind of quickly got away from it when I realized I didn't like being in front of the computer. To make music, I like being in front of the instrument or being out and about on my iPad or whatever. Yeah. And so, but right now I'm kind of thinking I want to get back into a workflow with Ableton that allows me to use my Nord piano. Maybe that's positioning it in a different way in the studio here, like kind of like how you have it, but use it in a way where when I'm in front of the computer and I'm playing stuff, I could immediately start producing right then and there. And that's, of course, I can't do that on that piano. That's like when I'm playing or practicing, I'm over there. When I'm producing, I'm in a total different area that typically doesn't have, a keyboard set there. And that's my primary instrument. So it's kind of like if I'm producing, say on here, for example, I'm like, oh, this is cool, but I can't play things that I want to play on here. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so I'm figuring out like I need to have a more so home base for music production that has access to like a keyboard that I really enjoy playing. So
yeah. I wonder if can you do that with your Nord? I mean, I assume you can, right? You can create a MIDI
for sure. The same way that you have yours set up, right? And maybe positioning that in front of so that it's position, but it's kind of like
I'm on an L if it's useful at all. Yeah.
Okay.
So I've got my keyboard here and my computer here.
Gotcha.
So I can easily hit record space bar or whatever, and then boom. And I mean, I wonder if like one of the pathways in for you might not be starting with play again. So not having too big of expectations for yourself and not taking on something too ambitious, but doing something where like, I've seen from like your Instagram and stuff like that, you like beautiful harmonies and stuff on the piano. So maybe like find a drum beat that speaks to you in some way. It can be a preset or sample from a sample pack or something like that. Just load it into your DAW, get the playback through your headphones, connect your MIDI keyboard, find a piano sample or Rhodes sample or whatever it is that speaks to you, and then just jam on that drum beat, right? You know what I mean?
Sure.
Because then like that's just going to be fun. It might just be something that I mean, for me that is, right? Like I'll often come and I'm like, I'm not really worried about record. You can record it because then that's cool. You can like listen back. Maybe you come up with something you like, but it's not even about that. It's just about like, well, it's helping me play in time more and kind of having some fun. It feels like jamming with someone, and then over time that can kind of develop into something else. But just like a simple beat track and then your keyboard track, you want to make them fancier. Maybe you add a bass line that you can jam along to or something like that. But it's three things. Yeah, you can no matter how much production experience you have, like assuming you know how to use Ableton Live, you can do that. You can set that up in 5 minutes.
Pretty easily, for sure. Yeah. And I'm smiling hearing you say that because that is absolutely something that I have done a long time ago, haven't done in quite a while, and I'm like, oh yeah, I need to do that like today. You know what I'm saying? I need to have a.
What are you talking to me for?
Yeah. Like I need to get that going like ASAP. One more question on Ableton between session and arrangement view. Which are the two? Do you use both of them or do you use one more so?
99%. Actually, probably at the moment, 100% arrangement view. I find session view. I actually found it a little bit off-putting. So I used to use Logic Pro. Yeah. And I found session view really opaque. And I was like, like it's easy to kind of get started making something quickly. But the thing I like about music is like the editing, and like it's kind of a little bit weird to edit in session view. It just felt counterintuitive. So I'm pretty immediately I got into arrangement, just like edit clips along a timeline, and then I can like move them around. I can edit. I can boop, 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 boop. I can click into them. I can change the MIDI. I can change the sounds. I can, and that all just speaks to the way I like to work a lot better. I find, yeah.
I'm 100% session view.
Yeah.
It's so interesting, right?
Yeah.
And it that loop based MIDI, setup just speaks to me. But as I have gotten a lot more into video editing, a lot of my music, of course, in session view is like loop based and it's a vertical sort of workflow. But video editing, of course, there's a timeline. And when I start realizing how much I appreciate certain music, having these, just like these changes or like this little effect here or like something that's just like thrown in there. It's like these little Easter eggs or whatever. That is essential. You need an arrangement view in order to do that, essentially. And so as I'm thinking about what you're describing, and I've been thinking that when I dive back into Ableton, like, it's not that I don't like arrangement view. It's that I never really used arrangement view. And now that I've gotten a lot of experience with video editing, now's a great, I think, prime time to like explore that. You know what I'm saying?
Totally.
Explore that a little bit more. So I'm excited about that for sure.
Yeah. And I'm sure probably the optimized way would be to use both of them to some degree. But once again, session view just seems like another thing to learn that I don't really. So instead of like playing a loop of like a drum beat or something like that, I'll just copy it into the arrangement. I'll take like a 2-bar drum beat or whatever and just like duplicate. So it just goes on forever. Whatever. I know other producers like actually like do the loop function in arrangement view as well. And it's kind of cool. You can do it like 2-measure beat or 4-measure beat and then loop it and then record. And it'll look like it's just recording forever, but it actually does record. Like it's just recording over the top of itself, like if you're recording piano. But then if you drag that out, everything is there.
That's pretty cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah, which is kind of cool. I didn't realize that until not that long ago. So you can just record like on a loop, and then you'll take that kind of small clip that you end up with, drag it along the timeline, drag the beginning. Yeah. Drag the end or whatever,
and kind of do
the whole take.
I got some fun stuff to check out here in Ableton. I'm excited about this. 2 more questions about Soundfly. And by the way, at any point in the future, you have a open invitation. Whenever there's like, I feel like we could talk for another hour or something, but I'm going to keep this to about an hour just to keep things.
Well, concise. We got to get you on our podcast, actually, because we Soundfly used to have a podcast, and we kind of stopped it. The host left the company to pursue his other dreams, and so we stopped it. But we're picking it back up, and with it's called Themes and Variation, and the idea is like you pick a theme. It could be something like Songs of Defiance or songs that you fell in love to or whatever it is, and then every person, we have a guest and everyone picks a single song that they think best represents that theme, and you chat about it. So
that's amazing. I love that.
It's really fun.
I already know which song. Like I won't say it now, but there's a song that I believe is my favorite song of all time, and I'm excited, and people who don't know me, they'll hear that. Wait, what song is it? I really need to know.
Oh
man, it's Dancing Queen by ABBA.
Oh my god, it's
bro. But here's the thing. Like I
love that.
It's a song that it has everything. The song has everything to me. Okay, it has everything, and it's even if you like listen to the drums of that song, and you research the history of why that song is so good. There's a lot, like, check it out if you get a chance. There's actually a Netflix documentary. There's a reason for why it's so good. But yes, we can talk about that on your podcast for sure. I would absolutely love to.
Come on.
So this first question about Soundfly is, And I'm almost gonna say you have to answer this question, okay? Sorry to put you
Not
on the
allowed
spot.
to leave. Yeah.
What is your favorite episode of episode, aka your favorite masterclass course?
Yeah.
There you go. That's what I'm looking for. What's your favorite course?
Probably that Ryan Lott one right now.
Okay.
It does change a little bit, but like that one is just this course on sound design. I think it's called creating custom digital instruments or something, which is kind of a dry name, but we didn't really know how to describe this process. But it's the idea of thinking of sound as your starting place, and then
Wow.
and I've loved that one. That's been really impactful. For the other one would be the course we made with Kiefer. Kiefer is an awesome pianist producer, beat maker. He produced a couple tracks on Anderson .Paak's I think Ventura album or one of those.
Nice.
But he's also just an incredible jazz piano player and like student of the game, and he just like went deep on like harmony and different tricks for getting out of vocal out of creative blocks and stuff. And so those two would be my two favorites.
All right, I got to check both of those out. I'll hit you up offline.
There you go.
And the last question is, I'm very intrigued about what you see for the future of Soundfly. Like, do you have thoughts about what you would like to integrate into your platform, say 5 years from now?
Yeah, I mean, I have so many ideas and visions, and it's really hard to kind of stick to them. What we're working on right now is actually kind of moving a little bit away from these long form courses that take a real commitment to get all the way through, and moving toward more kind of short form. How can we pack a really big punch in 5 minutes or something like that,
Okay.
that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So we're going to be like releasing more YouTube content. So definitely follow Soundfly on YouTube. If you don't, we'll be doing like a lot more kind of fun musical lessons and explorations and stuff on YouTube. And just exploring kind of shorter, how exciting and interesting can we make some idea in 5 minutes, so that then you can just like watch that as you're, going about your day, and then immediately implement it. So that's kind of what we're focused on right now.
It's a great idea.
But over the long term, like we've been doing these. We did a masterclass that was like personalized attention in the fall with an artist named Trues, and he was the teacher. And we maxed it at 20 students, and he led lectures every week with the 20 students, and they could ask him questions. They could chat with him.
Yeah.
There was a private Discord group where they could ask him questions there and get
cool.
and they'd upload work and get his feedback. And that was one of the coolest things I've ever done. It was just like so cool to like both see these students who were able to like interact with a hero of theirs, because Trues is a big kind of synthwave artist with kind of a lot of people who love him. But then also just like have that experience together where we're all making music and we're all like giving feedback, and it's just like 20 students limited. It was really impactful. So I want to do more of those as well. And then I have like a few app ideas and all the rest of it. So that's, we could go on forever, but those are some of the things that I'm hoping. I mean, right now the thing we're definitely doing is more short form content, and then hoping to do more, kind of off the beaten track, kind of move away from like the video courses a little bit and do more kind of different ways of educating, different methods.
I love it. I think those are both incredible ideas for sure. And I'm excited to kind of like see what this becomes. Like basically being a YouTuber, having a YouTube channel, I'm extraordinarily excited I don't even know if I'm following or not right now, but I will after this. I'm excited to see that first video. You know what I'm saying? I'll be like, oh, there we go. Like, talked about it. I know you guys are probably working on it currently right now. And so I think it's a slam dunk of an idea. So we're going to leave it at that. I'll let you say if there's anything else that you want to share with anyone else out there.
No. That's. I think I've said enough.
Bro,
Thank you very much.
Genuinely appreciate. Like I said, we can keep talking. I would love to have you on again at some point in the future. Maybe once the YouTube channel kind of starts to get rolling and stuff like that, it'll be cool to maybe talk through that a little bit. And I'll graciously accept your invite on your platform once that's rolling as well.
Yeah, definitely. We'll have to have you on the podcast to talk about Dancing Queen or whichever track you choose.
If it changes by then, it won't change. I love that song so much. You teased
me enough that I'm like, shit, I gotta go, dive into this. Yeah. We're doing an episode today called Fight Songs, and I've got to think of a fight song, and I haven't thought of my song yet, so I gotta go. What would you choose for fight songs?
For me, the first one that comes to mind is Ludacris' "Move," the B word. I'm not gonna say it, but if I hear that song come on, I get extremely amped.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you want from a fight song.
Yeah, you want that. Yeah, that aggression.
Exactly.
You gotta, for sure. I'm gonna take 5 more minutes or 2 more minutes of your time offline, if I may.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. So I'm gonna hit this. All right. Bye, the guys. Blah, blah. Okay, whatever. It's I already know. I know where it's gonna end. I'll probably leave this in too because I like the authenticness of this. So I will leave this in. And ladies and gentlemen, we are live. Welcome to. No, just kidding. I'm gonna do that for every single one of my episodes. I think it's just funny. Like we're having a little brief conversation before we start recording. And it's like I'm like a normal version, and then out of nowhere, just like boom, hey, we're live. Well, it's like, whoa, what did I get myself into here? What's going on?
Yeah.
So